Hi everyone, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. And today we are doing 2020 mid-year book freakout tag. It is already June of 2020. Almost 6 months of the year has already passed. Time flies and it's just a little bit scary, but it's okay. We're not going to talk about it much. I'm just always surprised how fast time flies. It's just unbelievable. But we will not talk about it now. We are going to talk about books, because that's the conversation that always calms me, at least. So we will start with the first question. Best book you've read so far in 2020? I cannot name just one book, to be honest. I've read quite a few like really good books that I truly enjoyed. The highlights would be Anne of Green Gables. I'm in love with Anne Shirley. She's just the best. And then one Russian classics, which I absolutely love, and this is The Garnet Bracelet by Alexander Kuprin. Chef's kiss. Everything. Wonderful. I love that story. And it's also so short. It's just a very short novella, but brilliant. And I just love it. So, The Garnet Bracelet. And then a recent book that I have finished very recently, actually, The Enlightenment of the Green Gage Tree. It was brilliant. I loved it so much. It will be featured in one of my very soon reading vlogs, so keep your eyes out for that. You have seen that coming, definitely. The Miracles of Namia General Store. Loved it. And of course, The Hobbit. Loved it. These are just like a few highlights, but there are so many more absolutely brilliant books that I have read this year, and you can watch the video if you want to know more on this topic. Next question. Best sequel you've read so far in 2020? I like almost never read series, so the only series that I'm really like trying and pushing myself to finish are like 2 of them. So Harry Potter series. And one more series that I'm really like pushing myself to finish is, I will just show you like the 3rd book in this series. So this is Anne of the Island. I have read the first 3 books, so Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea, and Anne of the Island. And now I have like, I think there are 6 books in this series, so I have 3 more left, or 7, I'm not sure. But I loved every single book in this series, like that I have read so far. All of them are brilliant. I think the first one is probably my favorite, but other 2 that I have read were brilliant as well. Number 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. Now, there is one particular release that I am just so looking forward to. I am just waiting for that release, and I cannot wait. The book will be released in September, I think the 15th of September, so I'm so looking forward. And that is Piranesi. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So this year, also, I haven't mentioned, but that was also a brilliant book. So I have read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I loved it so much. It was just brilliant. I adored it. And so now she has a new book coming out, Piranesi, and I have pre-ordered it already, and I'm looking forward to receiving this book in September. And there is one more book that actually I discovered very recently that I'm also looking forward to. This is a Troy by Stephen Fry. I'm interested in mythology, and I really like Stephen Fry. I think he's a cool guy, so I'm excited about that book as well. I kind of answered this question. So the next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I guess this was the answer that I have just gave. Then maybe the 3rd question, new release you haven't read yet but want to. So this is probably the book that is already out. Okay, I really want to read Wolf Hall trilogy by Hilary Mantel. I have all 3 books in this series. The 3rd book has come out just recently, like a few months ago, and yeah, this is like the new release that I really want to read. Number 5, biggest disappointment. I had quite a few actually in the beginning of this year, because in the beginning of this year I was trying to read books that are like hyped, like very famous books, and I understood that like a lot of them are not my cup of tea. And especially YA fantasy, like I understood that like just YA fantasy maybe I'm just not lucky with the book I'm reading, or it's just not my genre. At the beginning of this year, I read Children of Blood and Bone. I actually DNF'd it, but I started reading, and I was so convinced I was going to love that book. I was so convinced, because everybody is talking about it, and it's set in Africa, and I was thinking like it's inspired by African mythology, and I was so curious. I thought I was going to love that book, and I didn't. I didn't. I didn't enjoy the characters, and I didn't enjoy like everything that was going on. My liking, it was very fast pacing, and like I didn't have enough time to get like invested in the characters, to get interested in them. I'm not a plot driven reader. Like, plot isn't really like very important for me as long as I'm interested in the characters, and I wasn't. And everything was moving so fast, and I don't know, I didn't like that book, like really didn't like it. Disappointments. Number 6, biggest surprise. Because these days, after my disaster with like all the hyped YA fantasy that I didn't like, I understood that like I should not follow the hype, because I usually do not enjoy the books that I pick up because of hype. So there are some exceptions. For example, Madeline Miller, I bought her books because of hype, because of Booktube, and I loved them, both of them. So there are exceptions, but some books that I buy because of hype, I end up disappointed in. And so after that, I decided to only buy books that sound truly interesting to me, and that like I just feel in my heart that are going to be for me. I end up enjoying most of them. Of course, there are still some books that I end up not liking so much, but most of my choices I do enjoy. I cannot really tell you my big surprise. However, there is one book that I was like actually surprised that I kind of liked so much. The book I'm talking about is Perfectly Preventable Death by Deirdre Sullivan, and I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this book, because this is a very scary book. I mean, very scary for me. Like, my standards of very scary probably are very low standards for people who like read horror on a regular basis. This is not exactly a horror, but this is a very creepy book. For me, it was so scary, and I usually do not enjoy those books. Like, I don't enjoy the movies, I don't enjoy such books. I read Haunting of the Hill House. I thought it was it was an actually brilliant book. I read it, and then I just brought it in the second-hand bookshop, because I know that I will never reread that book. Like, one time is enough. And in case of this book, I don't think I will bring it to a second-hand bookshop. I might actually reread it, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed how the teenagers were written in this book. I think they were written really well. They actually felt like actual teenagers. This is like a YA horror, let's say, book. Not so much horror, but like creepy, YA creepy book, something like that. But teenagers are written here really well, and I really enjoyed that aspect. And the creepy mystery aspect of this book I also enjoyed. So yes, this book was actually a pleasant surprise for me. Number 7, favorite new author, debut or new to you. I think for this I have to name Susanna Clarke, because I have discovered her this year after I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Darrell and really loved it. Susanna Clarke, and I'm looking forward to that Piranesi in September. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I rarely have this like fictional crushes. I rarely read romance. I'm not a big fan of romance, I know, just not my cup of tea. So I don't really have any fictional crushes that I remember of, like from the books that I have read. I'll possibly name you my fictional crush, because I don't have any. I am sorry. Next one. Newest favorite character. You will guess easily. It's Anne of Green Gables. It's Anne Shirley. She's my new favorite character. I really like her, especially in the first book when she's still a child. She's just brilliant and adorable. Anne Shirley when she's a child. Number 10 is book that made you cry. The one story that always makes me cry because I reread it this year and I cried. And when I think about it, I'm ready to cry again. When I read the story for the first time, I also cried. It's The Garnet Bracelet. The Garnet Bracelet by Alexander Kuprin. This is the ultimate cry read for girls. Just, oh, so good. I love that book. I love that book. It's a short novella. It's not exactly like a book. It's a short novella, but I love it so much and it always makes you cry. If you take at least one recommendation from me, take this one. Take The Garnet Bracelet by Alexander Kuprin. Like, this is like the ultimate recommendation that I just love and I will always recommend. I just love that book so much. Number 11, book that made you happy. So in order not to repeat myself, I will not mention Anne of Green Gables, but that book definitely made me very happy. I will give you some other books that made me very happy. So one of them is The Hobbit. So heartwarming and so cozy. I love it. Another is Russian classics, which is, I always forget the English name. It's like Evenings Near the Village of Dikanka, something like that. Evenings Near the Village of Dikanka. That's also is a very funny read and I love it so much. And I also mentioned it in the video, like the best books I have read so far in 2020. So it's there as well. Loved it. So good. And also funny. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I like the covers of most of my books because I just like having beautiful books on my shelf, but I will give you just like a few books that I really like the covers of. So for example, the first one is The Eighth Life. I don't know, just it's very kind of simple, but I like this kind of not very bright red color and I like the gold foiling and I think this book is actually very beautiful. I like this cover a lot, even though the book is huge actually. I also like The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. I think this cover is very interesting and also I really enjoy it. I like it a lot. I think my favorite cover has to be this one. I really like this cover. Mary Anning's Curiosity. Look at it. I think it's very beautiful. And the book is also very short, but it's actually very good. It's about this first woman fossilist who found like a skeleton of a dinosaur. Her dad was an amateur fossilist. They were living on the shore and so every day they were like collecting like stones, like imprints on them of like old creatures, like ancient creatures, and she became the first woman fossilist. So, and this is like an reimagining of her childhood. What books do you need to read by the end of this year? So I don't really have like a very strict TBR for myself. I mean, I would like to read most of these books. I would like to read by the end of this year The Eighth Life. This book was longlisted for International Men's Booker Prize 2020. It didn't get into shortlist, but this is a story about like Georgian family in Soviet Union, and the author is Georgian herself. The book was initially written in German and it became a bestseller in Germany, and now it's translated into English. And I'm really interested to know. I would like to see. I mean, obviously I'm from Russia, so I have some like knowledge about like life in Soviet Union, obviously from like a Russian perspective. But I would like to see a perspective of a Georgian person. So that is interesting. That's why this book is definitely I would like to read until the end of this year, even though it really scares me. Look at it, look at it, look at it, it's huge. Another book that I want to read till the end of this year is Black Leopard Red Wolf. I'm really interested. It's actually on my June TBR. June or May? June TBR. It's on my June TBR or May. So it's on one of my like TBRs. This is a fantasy novel, but I am also a little bit intimidated because it's supposed to be very violent and a lot of people say it's like terribly violent. So we will see. Two more books that I want to read till the end of 2020 is The Luminaries, because I started it and I really need to finish it. It was interesting, really good, and I need to get back to it. So this is one more, and one more is Titus Grown, because I'm very much interested in this book, really wanted to read it. It was on my Owls TBR, but I didn't get to it. Last question is favorite book community member. I watch quite a few booktubers. I watch a lot of booktubers. I think my favorite booktube channels that I watch like on a regular basis would be Jean Bookish Thoughts. I really like her channel. I also like Piru's Project, Reagan. Our tastes with Reagan like are very different. She reads a lot of fantasy, a lot of YA fantasy, which I do not enjoy, but I just like her personality and I really like her reading vlogs. So Piru's Project, this is another one. I also like books with Chloe because she has just the most beautiful aesthetics. She, like her room, her bookshelf, she herself, it's just everything is so beautiful. So I really like and enjoy Chloe's content, even though again like our reading tastes are quite different. And one more is Irish Reader because he's just so funny. I really enjoyed his vlogs where he read the Twilight series. It was hilarious, and now he is reading 50 Shades of Grey, so very funny. So the Irish Reader as well. Also quite different tastes in books, but just the content is interesting. There you have it, guys. 2020 mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a very good day, and I will see you soon in the next videos. Thank you. Bye.